Okay, welcome to this series of Peter Rawson fly tying. First of all, the introduction. This will be in two parts because I want to show you some of the flies I'll be tying, some of the tools and some materials. In part two, I hope to give a little demonstration on starting and finishing a fly. Now, I don't profess to be an expert fly tyer. I'm a keen fisherman who likes to tie flies and would like to encourage other fly fishermen to take up this enjoyable pastime, especially youngsters who are the future of our sport. To me, there's no better feeling of satisfaction than to catch a fish on a fly tied by yourself. Fly tying is a nice pastime, especially during the winter months as the wind howls in the chimney. The Latin motto of the Fly Fishers Club translates as, "There's more to fishing than catching fish." So, I hope you'll join me when I will take you through a step-by-step process of tying mostly river and stream flies with the orientation towards our local South Wales rivers, with a little bit of Scottish influence, probably because I'm half Scottish and I do tie some flies for my Scottish friends and relations. I like traditional, well-proven flies, and most of the materials I'll be using in this series are easily obtainable. You'll see me make plenty of mistakes. I only do it for fun, and sometimes it can be a bit scary on camera. If something goes wrong, that's when it will happen. These are some of the flies I'll be tying. This one, by the way, is just here to get the focus right on the camera. I'm only amateur and I play with these things. This first one here is a blue bottle. You can see him there. I'll just pull him out to give you a better view. That's a blue bottle. The next one is a red quill. It's a parachute fashion fly. If I hold it by the hook, you can see the fly is tied, the hackle is tied at the base of the wings. The next fly is a pheasant tail. It's called a pheasant tail. The body's tied out of the centre feather of a cock pheasant's tail with some fox reddish brown hackles. No wings on that one. A very good all-round fly. One that I have a lot of faith in for our part of the country. The next one is an olive. This is tied mainly out of light olive, greeny olive fly. You'll see me tie these as we go through the series. Another favourite of mine, fairly easy fly to tie, very basic, simple fly, is called the grey duster. Very well known, very versatile fly. And if you had to live with just one fly for the rest of your fishing days, the grey duster wouldn't be a bad option. So that's the grey duster. You'll see me tying it as we go along. Then another well-known, very old favourite is the Greenwell's Glory. Greenwell's Glory is a very good, well-proven fly. Then I've got a nymph here. I'll tie a few nymphs as we go on through the series. This is just a pattern that I've been asked to tie for a friend of mine. I'm not sure what he's named it, but it's just a sample of a nymph. Then I've got a blue quill. This is the blue quill with a bluey grey hackle and the natural feather slip wings. So you'll see that as we go through the series. And lastly, a moth, lovely for evening time fishing. You see the wings on the moth? Can you see those? And this has got a badger hackle on the front and a hackle at the rear. Is tied fore and aft style. You'll see me tying that. Then we come on to some bigger salmon and sea trout flies, or suin as we call the sea trout in our area. This is an ask grub. Very good for salmon, sea trout, Big fly. It's used a lot in the Usk, the River Usk, and on the River Wye for salmon. I used to live in Hereford, and this is a very popular fly in that part of the world. Then we have a Waddington. This particular pattern is a dovey black and orange. It's got the orange hackle there. It's tied on a Waddington shank. I won't get too technical about this today, but when you will actually see me tie this fly. That's the Waddington. Then we have another well-known favourite here called the Alexandra. Lovely fly, beautiful fly, very, very efficient fly. There was talk of banning it at some stage. Again, you'll see me tie that as we go through the series. Pardon me. After the Alexandra, we've got Black Pennel. Lovely little fly for trout, mainly for trout, little wet fly for trout. Very good for sea trout, believe it or not. A lot of people don't use it for sea trout, but I have had some nice sea trout on the Black Pennel. Very straightforward and easy fly to tie. After the Black Pennel, we've got a very pretty fly called a teal, blue and silver. It's a very good sea trout fly in our part of the world, in any part of the world. It's a lovely sea trout fly, used a lot in the north of England and used well in our rivers in South Wales, the teal, blue and silver. The wing is from the teal feather, which I hope to show you sometime during the introduction. The introduction may be in 2 parts, and I hope you'll stay with me for that. And then we've got, after the teal, blue and silver, I'll be showing you a stoat tail. It's called the stoat tail. This is the stoat tail fly. Again, very, very good for sea trout and salmon. It's an old Scottish pattern, and it's lovely, very efficient fly for sea trout. If you use no other, that would do you fine. After the stoat tail, we've got a fly called a Dunkeld, invented in the Scottish town of Dunkeld. I think it's a town. I don't think it's a city, I'm not sure. However, this is the Dunkeld. It's got a lovely gold body on it, and you'll see it's got what we call jungle cock eyes. The cheeks are the jungle cock feather. Then we have a very nice, basic, good all-round wet fly, mainly for trout, but also good for sea trout. The body of this fly is in silver, and this is called the Silver March Brown. And I want you to look at the wing on that, because it's made from a hen pheasant wings, feathers from the wings, and I'll show you those as we go through the series. I've tried to position the camera as close as I can to tire eye level, which I hope will make it easier for you to understand. Follow the series when I start to tie the flies. Excuse me while I have a sip of my water. Okay, you'll notice when I put the hook in a vise, I always hide the point. That saves you catching the silk on the point and cutting it. But I've no doubt I will be cutting the silk or breaking the silk in front of you as we go through the series, because people do I make mistakes, basic mistakes as everyone else. I regret occasionally the fly will be a bit out of focus, but hopefully that will not detract from the main action that I'm trying to show you at the time. Right, now like every other fly tire, I have evolved my own style. And I've no doubt that some experienced fly tyers among you will say that some of their techniques are better. That's okay. I would be the last to say that my methods could not be improved upon. We have plenty of guys in the fly tying class which I attend who are better than me, and we all learn off each other. Pardon me. Now, first of all, some tools. You'll need a lamp. I've got an angle poised lamp here which is shining down. I can't show you that, the camera doesn't allow me to, but you will need a pretty good light to give you some better vision, and you'll need a good vise. Buy the best vise you can because it'll last you a long time. I've had this since the 70s. Then you'll need some scissors. Now I have two pair of scissors. I have a cheapish pair here, which I use to cut tinsels and that sort of thing. And I have what I call my best pair, which I use to cut feathers and wool and floss materials. Bit of advice, if you're starting out in this and you're going to build up some tools and you buy scissors, buy them with the big finger holes. It does make it easier, in my opinion. Then you will need a dubbing needle. This is a dubbing needle. You use it to clear the eye on some of the flies. There are other ways, which I will show you as we go through the series. But you will need the dubbing needle for all sorts of things. Very, very useful little tool. Then you'll need some hackle pliers. I use, I'll show you my hackle pliers. I use two pair. This is the hackle pliers. It's for winding the hackle around the fly, mainly on dry flies, but also wet flies. This is a normal size one, and I have a mini one for when I'm tying very small flies. That's the hackle pliers. I don't use it an awful lot because some of the hackles, if they're long, you can do them by hand and you'll just get into it. Then you need a bobbin holders to hold your silk. This is the bobbin holder to use your silk to wind it around. I have several. I keep them fully loaded with the silks I use most of all. These are normal size ones. This is a mini one that I use for some of the old silks I've got, the old Pearsall's silks, which are very good. The one I use most of all is the black one. You'll notice I've got a little bit of rubber on the end. This I just push on when I've finished and I store my tools away. This stops the silk slipping back down and disappearing. Good little tip there given to me by my friend John Allen. And it is a good tip. You'll need a threader. I think you will anyway. Not everybody needs a threader, but I do. This is if you break your silk or you only have one bobbin holder, or if you want to change the silk, you push the threader down, you put the silk through that little diamond shape there and you draw it out. And that's useful, it saves time. You can suck the silk through, a lot of guys do that, and they get a mouthful of wax and other bits and pieces now and again. Then I use wing cutters quite a bit. This is a wing cutter. This is my old one, which I've had for years, and there's a little blade there with a circle, and you press it down on the feather to cut out some wings. You'll see me use this as we go through the series. I won't go into it too much now, but it's actually, the wing cutter was used to cut the wings on this Greenwell Glory. Can you see those? And also I used it on the moth. See the wings on the moth there? I used those. They were cut out with the wing cutter. I find them very useful and not expensive. They weren't around much when I first bought this in the 70s, but now other people do them. This is lower flash wing cutters, and they come in 4 different sizes in a nice little box like this. I think you'll find it quite useful if you get a wing cutters. Now there is a tool which I don't have here, I want to tell you about. It's called a whip finish tool. It's a tool that you use to finish off the fly with your silk, to finish off with the best method called a whip finish. Now I do it by hand because I first learnt it, when I first started, I learned it from this book, Venyard's book, How to Do the Whip Finish. And it was a bit frustrating learning from a book because I didn't have anyone to show me. But now I got into it by hand from the book, so I don't need the tool and I don't use it but I do recommend it because a lot of my friends in our club use the whip finish tool, and they're very skilled with it, and I do think at the end of the day it's the better way. So that's the whip finish tool. I should have shown you when we were talking about silks. The silk I recommend is a Uni 8O. This will do almost anything. You can get whatever colours you like. If you're only going to get one, get a black. And you'll probably notice as you go through this, as I go through the series, you'll see me have this piece of plastic around the reel of silks. And this is simply, if you go to a caravan or a camping shop, they sell this pipe like this in lengths. You just cut off what you want, put a slit down it like that, and that's ideal for stopping your silks unraveling when you store them away. And they come in various sizes, those pipes. Right, then you'll need, I recommend you get a craft knife. It's very useful. If you tie a fly and you're not happy with it, don't put it in your box. Run a blade down it, save the hook and start again. If you put it away in your fly box, you won't be happy with it and you'll never really use it. So you may as well start again. On the end of my knife, I've got a little bit of rough Velcro. Can you see that? You can stick it on a lollipop stick, which we use now and again to brush out some of the different bodies. You'll probably see me do that go through the series again. Finally, I say finally, you can always build up tools. You need some wax. This is normal beeswax. You can get proper fly tying wax. It's no better. Whatever you can get, beeswax or the fly tying wax, just get it. You will need it. Don't bother with the liquid wax. I've tried it and I find it a nuisance. Then you will need some varnish finally to finish off the head of the fly, to make the fly solid. I use this one, the Lure Flash varnish. It's very good, and lately I've been using this nail varnish, Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails nail varnish. It's fantastic for finishing off the head, and it goes as hard as nails. So that is a recommendation for you. Right, now I want to show you some materials, and hackles by far will form the biggest part of your collection of materials. Hackles come from farmyard fowls, and they come from the neck of the cockerel or the hen, and they come in, they come from the head or the neck. Some come from the rump. Now I want to show you the difference between a cock and a hen. This is a hen hackle. It's surprising the number of newcomers to fly tying who've never been shown the difference between a cock and a hen hackle. Now this is a hen hackle. If you notice, it's very soft and downy. It will absorb water. Now, a bit of a rule, it's not a firm rule, but if you think of a hen hackle, soft and downy, absorb water, is for a wet fly. And a cock hackle is sparkly and springy. It's less likely to hold water. Can you see the profile of that? Less likely to hold water. So a cock hackle is for dry flies. I'm trying to show you some examples of this because I think it's important that you know this. Can you see the spiky profile of this cock hackle? It will repel water, is less likely to absorb water. So we want a dry fly to float. And a hen hackle will absorb water. See, it's soft and downy. So it's hen hackles for wet flies, cock hackles for dry flies. This is another hen hackle, soft and downy. And you can get some of these hackles which come from a saddle, and they're genetic hackles. This is one here. The genetic hackles, the bird has been especially bred for the feathers. Now, some of the guys I've met have not been shown that. They didn't know the difference. It's not their fault. They didn't know. Nobody's shown them. But you will use a hackle in one form or another in almost every fly you tie. Now, as a general rule, not a hard and fast rule, cock hackle for dry, hen hackle for wet. So that's that. And I've shown you the genetic hackle. Now, when you move on, which you may do, to salmon and sea trout flies, they're wet flies, but we use some cock hackles. These are cock hackles in this big fly here because they're better really on a bigger fly. So I'm breaking the rule when I say to you cock hackles, but on these big salmon and sea trout flies, we'll use these bigger hackles. And these I've dyed myself. They were white or what have you. I use nylon dye, which I get from Dunelm, but there's another one just as good, which is the dye from Vineyards. We've got some other hackles, body hackles. Body hackles, the most common one is the partridge. And the partridge hackle, when I say body hackles, they come from either the chest or the back of a partridge. And this is one here that I've taken out of the packet to show you. And it's a very pretty feather. Body hackles normally have a thick stalk, so we normally tie them in by the tip. So when we come to body hackles, we will be tying them in by the tip. I don't want to worry too much about that at the moment because you will see me do this as we go through the series. And the other hackles that we'll be using are, well, body feathers again, are golden pheasant breast feathers. And these are them here. I'll just get one out to show you. It's here, and it's on the tail of this fly. We wound it on, and this is a golden pheasant breast feather. It's a body hackle, and it's useful in some of these big flies, which you may well move on to at a later date. Then we have, the breast feather, by the way, is also used on the Usk grub. You can see it's on this type of fly. We have teal. It's a body feather. It's a very attractive feather, well marked, barred, black and white, and we use that. Sometimes we wind it on some big flies, but there's a teal series of flies, and this is the wing on this teal, blue and silver. And you see that? That's a nice, it's a lovely feather. A little bit difficult to use, as is the partridge feather, but I hope to show you, demonstrate them as we go through the series. Right, now, after that, I've got some wings. I want to show you some wings. Feathers for dry fly wings and wet fly wings. This is from a woodcock. I keep them paired up like this because you'll always need a left and a right when you're doing your wings. I put some masking tape around them and I select one from a left wing, one from a right, and I keep them together. And I do the same. These are from hen pheasant primary wing feathers, and that feather is used to make the wings on the March Brown, one of the flies I showed you earlier. You see that? I don't want you to confuse you too much about wings because you'll see it as we go through the series. These are mallard wings, and the mallard wing is used on this red quill fly here. We cut out little sections as we go along, and you can see they form like that. With wings, you always need a matching pair. So when I buy my wings, I strip them, I get the primaries off, put the left and the right, and put the masking tape around the bottom. Saves you searching through looking for a left and a right. Pardon me. So that's it really. One more to show you. The butcher. These are again from the mallard wings. Now can you see that blue sheen? We use these to make the wings on a butcher. I don't have a butcher fly to show you here, but it's a lovely well-known wet fly. These feathers are the sword feathers from the peacock tail. These are along the bottom of the peacock's tail. Lovely green feather, can you see it? And that feather is used in the wing of the Alexandra. Okay, now that's all I want to show you on the first part of this series. That's the end of series 1. I hope you will stay with me and join me in part 2 when I'll continue to show you some of the other materials and bits and pieces to tell you about, and also to show you, give you a little demonstration of starting and finishing the fly. I hope you can stay with me. Talk to you soon.